You're tuned in to Track Talk on Sports Radio 810 WHB. America's largest all-sports radio station presents the #1 motorsports show in the Midwest for over a decade. Track Talk, brought to you by McCarthy Auto Group. Here are the RacinBoys, Scott Traylor and Kirk Elliott.
Good morning, race fans. Welcome to Track Talk here on Sports Radio 810 WHB and RBN, the RacinBoys Broadcasting Network. I'm Scott. He's Kirk. We're the RacinBoys. And for the next hour here on Sports Radio 810 and RacinBoys.com, we're going to be talking motorsports. And we want to thank each and every one of you for joining us this morning. We have got a lot to talk about. We have a little bit of a clip of an interview that we did this week with Brian Clausen, who just announced that he will be driving for Coalwood Racing in 2015. And Coalwood Racing, if most people are not familiar with him, is out of California. His father and Cole own a team that Cole drove for himself. He won the Brodex Rookie of the Year championship in 2013. So Coalwood now becoming a car owner with Brian Clausen, a guy that's just about done everything. He's ran the Indianapolis 500. He's a two-time non-wing sprint car champion. He's a two-time USAC midget champion, and just all kinds of other championships to boot on top of it. So Brian Clausen, have a little interview with him, a little teaser of what you can find on our premium section on RacinBoys.com. Don't forget, exclusive video content always available for $6.50 a month or $50 a year on RacinBoys. Thanks so much for the people that do spend their hard-earned money to watch those videos. You can watch the Brian Clausen video in its entirety on the website. I think, Kirk, what's that, about 25 minutes long?
Yeah, it's a good interview. You talk to him about a lot of different things.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not just about his new ride with Coalwood Racing, but about the Chili Bowl and a little disappointment in the Chili Bowl after he won it last year. This year, he had the lead early until Rico got around him, and then he had some trouble. He was able to rally back and finish 10th in that race, but really had a great two trips down under. He made two trips to
I think he won 7 or 8 or 6 of 7 or something like that.
He was on fire down there, and of course
in New Zealand as well.
Right, and he's got some exciting things coming up in the month of May. He's going back to Indianapolis, going to be racing the Indianapolis 500. So a lot on the plate
for a second time,
Brian. Yep.
And what did he end up, like 13th?
I can't remember.
I can't remember how he ended up.
2012 is when he was there last.
Yeah, and he hasn't been back since, but good to see that he's got another chance. And he showed a lot of speed in the month of May. He crashed. If I remember right, Kirk, he crashed in the month of May, and that kind of set him behind the 8 ball for the rest of the month and the race, I do believe. And when they got into the backup car situation, not as much speed with that car. But anyway, Brian Clausen, 2014 Lucas Oil Chili Bowl Nationals winner as well. So doing it all, and he's won the Belleville Midget Nationals. I mean, there's really, if you go back and you look at his website, brianclausen.com, the amount of accomplishments that he has at his young age is pretty remarkable.
We remember at Lucas Oil Speedway, and I think that, I forgot what year, 2006, he broke his neck. And that was a pretty serious
big deal
incident that Brian was involved in. And a lot of people were wondering how that was going to affect the rest of his career. He was able to recover from that, but that was a horrifying situation for Brian. When you break your neck, I mean, a lot of bad things can result from that. You can find yourself in a wheelchair if you're not careful. But he was able to completely recover from that. It took him a while, but he was able to bounce back. But it was a life-altering event. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah. Well, anyway, so we're going to play a little bit of that interview with Brian Clausen. And Kirk, I hate to always start off a show with a somber note, but I'm going to try to keep this positive about what we're talking here today. Unfortunately, in the racing community, and if you've been around long enough, you know who driver Larry Walker is. Raced with him in the modified division. His son raced after he did. Larry Walker, unfortunately, has a terminal cancer, and the future's not too bright for Larry. But what was bright was the amount of people that turned out to see Larry last night up here off of 24 Highway. We all met at a little Mexican restaurant over there down the street from Joe Ross. You know where Joe Ross's shop is up there. That little Mexican restaurant right down the street. And I'm proud to say that, I've got to say maybe 200 people showed up last night.
Wow.
But I think the coolest part about it all, though, is as we're looking at pictures from last night, and Larry, man, what a great attitude he had last night. But I think what was cool last night was how Larry showed up to the event. Bob King, who lives right down the street here from RacinBoys Studio, right around the corner from RacinBoys HQ, has this really, I just call it a badass Nova. Pro Street Nova, big tires underneath the quarter panels, drag car basically that's street legal, right? 605-inch big block motor in it. And Larry had made mention to Bob that he'd like to get a ride in that Nova before he passes. Well, I want to give a shout-out to a longtime supporter of local racers around here, and he's been a supporter of mine over the years and a great engine builder. Bob Morton and Bob King worked their tail off for the last 4 or 5 nights to get this motor fixed. They didn't have the nerve to tell Larry that the motor wasn't the motor was blown up, had a burnt piston or something like that. So, per the request of Larry Walker, Bob Morton, Bob King worked their butt off for 4 days, got the motor together. As you can see, they're pulling up.
Those of you on RacinBoys.com,
right,
look at that right now.
Right, we've got video that we're playing. I'm sorry, I need to explain that sometimes. But anyway, they pull up in front of the Mexican restaurant, and boy, I'm sure glad the Independence Police Department wasn't there, because he did one of the longest smoky burn. It was like a John Force burnout down 24 Highway with Larry Walker sitting in the passenger
seat. Yeah, you're not going to
seat.
go to the Independence Police and ask for permission to do this.
Not that. No,
you
that
just
was
ask for forgiveness.
Lucky we didn't get a ticket.
Right.
Yeah, lucky Bob didn't get a ticket. But you know what? I got to believe that a cop probably would have looked the other way on this one, knowing what was going on here. You know, they've only give Larry weeks to survive, and this is as we're watching on RacinBoys.com. It was such a surreal moment. They pull in with the drag car. Everybody that was in the restaurant, all 200 people, come out in front of the restaurant, and they're all clapping and applauding, and Larry gets out of the car, and he's got the biggest smile on his face because he did not realize all these people were showing up for him. And it was such a moment, I will say.
The good Lord smiled down and gave us a beautiful day yesterday, and also allowed the Independence Police Department to look the other way. Something divine was happening yesterday up on 24 Highway.
And in true Larry Walker fashion, Larry never once acted like he was sick that much. You know, you could tell he wasn't feeling well. Upbeat. You know, he was tired at the end of the night, but he wanted to say something to everybody. The line of people to see him and say whatever they wanted to say to him was so long, it lasted for a couple hours. And Larry, let me tell you, buddy, you are the man, because not many people would have the spirit that you had last night, knowing your condition. And you know what's inspiring, because I would like to think that, you know what, no matter how bad a person feels in those final days, that you could act like Larry, because he was so happy, so upbeat to see everybody.
You know, it just speaks to what kind of a guy.
Crazy.
It speaks to what kind of a guy Larry is, to have that many people show up.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't think many of us would be fortunate enough to have that kind of a circumstance before we go, to have that amount of people show up and honor you that way. It speaks highly of the kind of guy Larry Walker is.
Well, I've known Larry, and I don't know if you got that picture, Todd, but we'll show it here. And again, we have live in-studio cameras here at RacinBoys, so on the website you can watch the show as you're listening to it. But I have a picture. It's kind of a rough picture. It's hard to see, but it's a picture of Larry Walker flying over the wall. 1990. It's 90 or 91. I think it's 1990. Going over the wall, him and A.J. Cooper getting together. It's Hitchcock and me going low down at the bottom of the track, so that's how I came up with the picture, because my car was in it. So it's a really cool picture. Unfortunately, it's a cool picture of Larry going over the wall. But it was funny. Aaron Daniel was there last night. Jim Reeves was there. John O'Neill Jr. was there. Huey over at Day Automotive. Bob King. So many people showed up again to see Larry, and I want to thank each and every one of them for showing up, because I know how much it meant to him. And again, Larry, our thoughts and prayers are with you, bud, and we hope you go through this final part of your life and keep that enthusiasm that I've always known you to have. And that's what I saw last night, was the genuine Larry Walker enthusiasm, upbeat, smile on his face, willing to talk to anybody that wanted to talk to him. And Larry, we love you, and we're thinking about you constantly, buddy. So thoughts and prayers to you. All right, so, and on one other note, I need to mention this too as well, and I forgot to a couple weeks ago, and I feel terrible that I didn't. Dave Moffitt was a crew chief for me for, I don't know, probably 8-9 years, 7-9 years, something like that. We won a lot of races together. Most of my races was with Dave Moffitt as the crew chief. And Dave Moffitt, though we haven't seen each other, our paths have kind of went down different roads. His girlfriend, Robin Kern, passed away several weeks ago, or maybe 3 weeks ago. And unfortunately, I didn't get word of it until afterwards. And if Dave is listening, I know he does from time to time on Saturday mornings. Dave, I'm thinking of you. I'm the Kern family. I'm so sorry that they owned Kern's Tavern down on Choteau Traffic Way across from Choteau Inn, when Choteau Inn and all that area was still developed down there. But so, Dave, we're thinking of you and everybody part of Robin's family as well.
And those of you that are tuned in that don't follow racing closely, you're a big sports fan, but you listen in because you like to hear us talk, maybe.
Maybe.
For those of you out there.
And some that are just stuck on 810, they can't fix their radio.
This really points out, this really demonstrates what a family the racing community is, especially on the local level here. And what happened yesterday up on 24 Highway, everybody is family around these tracks, and that's why we keep coming back. It's not so much about the cars. Yeah, everybody wants to go fast and watch racers go fast, but what keeps me coming back are the people, because racing people are down to earth. You know,
here's the thing about racing people, Kirk. It's, you know, we appreciate the fans that go and watch the races and then go on to their normal life and do that, but the really hardcore race fans, it's a lifestyle, right?
It is a way of life.
It's just a way of life, and the ones that have that racing disease the most, guys like us, that's all we think about. You know, wake up in the morning, we start thinking about racing and RacinBoys and just racing in general, right? And that's how most of these fans that were there last night are. They're those kind of people. Skip Richards was there. I forgot to mention him. There was a lot of people there. Mike Goodwin. Very, very dear friend of mine was there as well, and I know he was really excited to see Larry. So, anyway, Larry, we're thinking of you, buddy, and we're thinking of you, and hopefully you'll enjoy these final days.
Well, you're heading out to Florida here tomorrow, and already we got a lot of racing going on in Georgia, late model series. Both the World of Outlaws and Lucas Oil Late Model Series is well underway right now. Last night, we had Steve Casebolt Jr. win down at Screven Motor Speedway in the World of Outlaws, their season opener last night. Earl Pearson Jr. winning last night in the Lucas Oil Late Model Series. And, you know, it's kicking up. We're in February now, and there's going to be a lot of racing going on we're going to be talking about.
Sure is. And we're going to talk more about it when we come back here on Track Talk. Track Talk is brought to you by McCarthy Auto Group. We've got great new news about McCarthy Auto Group. We're going to get into that later in the show. But until then, we'll take your phone calls. Plus, we have a little Brian Clausen interview. And also, Kirk, we have another special guest as well. Tomorrow is a big day for RacinBoys, Missouri Mavericks. We're going to be talking about that as well.
And we got Jared Reed coming up next, by the way. And we hope you join us out at the Independence Event Center tomorrow, because the Missouri Mavericks is hosting its second annual Salute to Racing Day. We're looking forward to that, and there's going to be several drivers out there. So when we come back, we'll be talking with Jared Reed. The Missouri Mavericks has been quite busy here over the last 24 hours because the Missouri Mavericks had a new owner, Lamar Hunt Jr. So
great timing for RacinBoys.
So we'll talk a little bit about that. So a lot of exciting things going on, and that's where we're going to be tomorrow afternoon.
That and more when we come back with more of McCarthy Auto Group's Track Talk with the RacinBoys right here on Sports Radio 810.